The NCAA National Championship Trophy is the ultimate prize, as 68 teams will soon set their sights on the Hoosier State, hoping to hoist it in triumph after the nets are finally cut down once again. Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Gumbel. Welcome to the NCAA March Madness Bracket Preview. It is very good to be back with you on the road to the Final Four after an unprecedented detour a year ago. And thanks to the heroics of healthcare workers across the country, combined with the extraordinary efforts of the NCAA, universities, and student athletes, we are now just weeks away from the long-anticipated return of brackets and madness. It's also great to be back alongside my wonderful colleagues, Clark Kellogg and Seth Davis. And Clark, a year away, you're still as excited as can be.
I sure am. And in honor of your return, Greg, I just wanted to make this note that one of the things we know about having this circumstance with COVID-19 is that pausing and pivoting are pervasive in a pandemic. Yet, we're going to have an opportunity to see March Madness unfold in about a month.
Am I supposed to really follow that?
Yes, you are.
Not easy to work with the man. Listen, after all the disruptions we've been through during the course of the season, it's great today to be able to talk about basketball and the tournament. The tournament always delivers, and hopefully everything goes well. We're going to have us a good one this year.
And with just 4 weeks until Selection Sunday and an NCAA tournament that will look quite different this year, we're thrilled to be joined from Rupp Arena, where Kentucky and Auburn will tip things off here on CBS about 30 minutes from now, by Mitch Barnhart, the Director of Athletics at Kentucky and Chair of the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Committee, and Dan Gavitt, NCAA Senior Vice President of Basketball. Gentlemen, it's so different from a year ago, and you kind of wonder what has changed. What is it that allows this, Mitch, to happen, and it didn't happen last year?
Oh, great, thanks. It's great to be with you. It's much different from a year ago, and clearly remember March 12th when it all came to a stop. But we have more information in today's world, and the conferences and the NCAA have put together medical task forces that have really given us quality information. And we've got testing and protocols that have allowed us to find a way to keep student athletes, coaches, and staff safe and healthy. And then at the end of the day, we absolutely had a fall and a sports season, so we were able to have more knowledge and gain an ability to move forward safely.
Dan Gavitt, what's changed for you?
Yeah, I think, Greg, it's the availability of testing and knowing that those who participate and take the court are safe and healthy. And then the risk mitigation, creating controlled environments like we will during the NCAA tournament, where those Tier 1 individuals that are being tested on a daily basis are not interacting with those that aren't and are practicing physical distancing and wearing masks and mitigating the risk as great as possible to keep everybody healthy and safe, and to have a successful March Madness 2021.
Priority one. Dan is joining us from Indianapolis, soon to be the epicenter of the basketball world. And in order to make sure that this year's tournament is as safe as possible, all 67 games will be played within the Hoosier State, using 6 venues, including the home courts of Butler, Indiana, Purdue, and IUPUI. And of course, Lucas Oil Stadium, originally scheduled to host the Final Four, will now have 2 courts, but never 2 games played simultaneously, Seth.
Dan, let me start with you. You mentioned about the testing and the medical protocols. Can you explain what's going to happen once everybody is in Indianapolis, and what are the procedures in place in the event of positive tests?
Well, even in advance of teams arriving in Indianapolis, Seth, there will be 7 consecutive days of tests that will be required. There'll be daily PCR testing for all teams upon arrival and throughout the tournament in Indianapolis. And should there, unfortunately, be a positive test, of course, the student athlete or the staff member will be taken care of medically, isolated, and made sure that they're safe and they don't interact with others. And then we'll have to contact trace, of course. But we have a procedure and protocols in place that should not eliminate teams from the entirety of the tournament, as long as they're maintaining that physical distancing and wearing masks. And not having prolonged close contact, the team should be able to move on safely and continue to compete.
Mitch, obviously the committee's work is all about evaluating teams and then getting them into the bracket. Talk to me, if you will, a little bit about what are the priorities or what are the challenges in this year with COVID-19 as a backdrop in evaluating teams. I mean, what's risen as perhaps the greatest challenge as the committee attempts to evaluate teams?
Clark, thanks. Again, it's about the word that we keep using over and over. You used it, pause, the verb pause, and everyone is worried about the pause. And so I think our principles don't change. It is who you beat. It is where you beat them. It is about the full body of work. It is about opportunities you are presented with for victories in big games and getting those quality wins. Having said that, no one's going to be penalized for being on pause. Everyone's trying extremely hard to get to the start line and do things at a high level. And so really important to note that of the teams competing in NCAA basketball, probably 90 to 95% of them are going to have the minimum number of games ready to go. But it is not the committee's job to speculate and to sit here and say, what if they played or what if they had more games on their resume? We just have to evaluate the resumes as they lie and take a look at those things that have been our principles all along.
All right, gentlemen, hold on a second. You know about the new format and the schedule and everything. We have a tournament. All we need are some participants. And Dan is going to step aside. Mitch will reveal the top 8 seeds of today when we return after a timeout.
We are underway on Championship Monday. We have overtime for the national championship. Hunter does it again, and Virginia with the all-time turnaround title.
Talk about a memorable night in Minneapolis. That was it. The Virginia Cavaliers defeating Texas Tech in an overtime classic to claim their first national title. Tony Bennett's team, the last to cut down the nets nearly 2 years ago. This year, the schedule has been tweaked a bit. The first 4 will now take place on Thursday, March the 18th, meaning the 48 games comprising the first 2 rounds will be played Friday through Monday. The Sweet 16 will be the weekend of the 27th and the 28th. The Elite 8 is now scheduled for Monday the 29th and Tuesday the 30th. And the Final 4 will air here on CBS April 3rd and the national championship game Monday the 5th. With us to help reveal the brackets, Mitch Barnhart, the Director of Athletics at Kentucky and Chair of the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Committee. Mitch, let's get to it, starting with the overall number 1 seed. Who you got?
Well, Greg, no mystery here. There's 2 teams that have been amazing all year, and the number 1 seed at this point in time in the season as we go into the final few weeks is Gonzaga.
Yeah, you're saying no mystery here. 2 guys here who love to argue. Are you going to argue the point or no?
We cannot argue this one. Gonzaga is high-octane offensively. They've been good for a decade and a half under Mark Few, and clearly this is one of his best teams. The versatility offensively is what's most impressive about this group to me, Seth.
It would be interesting to me if Baylor is able to run the table and also go into the tournament undefeated. They'll have more quad 1 wins than Gonzaga. They could potentially overtake them in about a month's time.
All right, so we have Gonzaga at the top spot. Let's do 2, 3, and 4, Mitch.
Razor thin, as Clark and Seth have talked about. It's Baylor at the number 2 slot. Michigan comes in at the number 3 slot, and another Big Ten team, the Buckeyes from Ohio State, at 4.
Yeah, I don't think, guys, it's going to be anything surprising that we're going to see a lot of Big Ten teams named here today.
No question. I think that's exactly right. Great to see the Buckeyes playing well, but Baylor, a team that very well, as Seth said, could be the overall number 1 seed when we do this again in a month. But you look at their quartet of backcourt players. I don't know if I've seen a better quartet of 2-way guards get into you defensively and can make every play you need to make at the offensive end.
I don't know that there's another team in all of college basketball that is playing and reaching its potential better than Ohio State, which in the first week of January was not even ranked in the top 25 of the AP poll, and now is sitting here as number 1 seed. They're actually in 3rd place in the Big Ten standings, which shows you the quality of that conference, but it's the quality of their wins and especially their road wins, which has them on the top.
Yeah, and the most quad 1 wins of any team in the country as we speak right now.
All right, Mitch, as we go seeds 5 through 8, you're saying things were razor thin in those first 4. How about 5 through 8?
It stayed very razor thin, Greg. As we move forward, another Big Ten team comes in at number 5, Illinois. Number 6, Villanova Wildcats. Number 7 from the SEC, Alabama. And number 8, Houston.
Okay, so as we see these teams, quarrels?
No quarrels for me, nonetheless. And Illinois is actually starting to play some of its best basketball of the season right now. And they've got perhaps the best 2-man combo when you talk about an imposing center in Kofi Cockburn and then a dynamic stat sheet stuffing guard in Ayo Dosunmu.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Houston, in a similar way to Gonzaga, maybe getting overtaken by other teams having more quality wins. But how about what Nate Oates is doing in Tuscaloosa, Alabama? Again, a team that was unranked in the middle of January and now is well in first place in the SEC, the best three-point shooting team in that conference, and ranked number 1 in the country in defensive efficiency. When you make threes and you guard, you're going to win a lot of games.
Mitch, I know that these things are very subject to change. I'm wondering if you're looking ahead and seeing how this will actually change when it comes down to it on Selection Sunday.
Oh, absolutely. I think that we talk about it all the time. I'll never forget Mark Hollis and the visual that he had 5 years ago when we started this. 1,000 games left to play, and so much to do. But at this point, a snapshot and given the circumstances we're in and the resumes, these teams are very worthy, and they're wonderful to talk about and gives us some great ability to look ahead at some great matchups. Again, there's some tomorrow and as we begin the last 4 weeks of the regular season and tournaments as we get to March 9th and the committee convenes in Indianapolis.
You're right. We do have lots to talk about. The reveal continues. A look at seeds 9 through 16 when the NCAA March Madness bracket preview continues after this. Welcome back to the NCAA March Madness bracket preview. We're halfway through the top 16 seeds with Mark Few's Gonzaga Bulldogs, your number 1 overall, as we recap the top 2 seeds in each of the 4 regions as of today. The number 1 seed overall, we said Gonzaga. Number 2 is Baylor. Number 3 is Michigan. And number 4 is Ohio State. The second 4. Number 5 is Illinois in Region 2. Number 6 is Villanova. Number 7 is Alabama. And number 8 is Houston. And we're saying region for the moment, Seth.
Right. Everyone is in Indiana, so the normal geographic regions don't apply. So for the purpose of this show, we're calling it 1, 2, 3, and 4. But by the time we get to the tournament, they will not have those
Subject
names.
to change, we call that wet cement, partner.
There you
Not
go.
anchored in yet.
All right, Mitch, let's continue the reveal now and move on to seeds 9 through 12.
Thank you, Greg. The defending national champions come in at 9, Virginia Cavaliers. At 10, the West Virginia Mountaineers playing really well with 2 wins over Texas Tech. Number 11, Tennessee Volunteers. And number 12 from the Big 12, Oklahoma Sooners.
All right, so as we see this set of 4 teams, anything there surprising you?
Nothing surprising me, but I've got my eye on these West Virginia Mountaineers. You know, the last time they got to the Final Four, led by Deshaun Butler, 2010, it was in Indianapolis. This may be Bob Huggins' best offensive team since then. When you look at Miles McBride, Haz Sherman, Derek Culver inside, great offensive balance, not nearly as sandpaper-like defensively, but offensively, this is a very good West Virginia team.
I am loving these Tennessee Volunteers, the number 3 seed in Region 2, not only because of what they've done, Clark, but what I think they're about to do, because Rick Barnes put his 2 freshmen into the starting lineup, Keon Johnson and Jaden Springer. They've been a very good defensive team, struggled to score. Springer just had 30 points against Georgia, and Johnson is starting to score as well. Those guys, I think, are going to continue to get better, and I predict you Tennessee's about to kick it up next level.
Their ceiling is quite high.
All right, let's round out the top 4 now in each of the regions. Mitch, give us seeds 13 through 16.
The 4 seed line opens with the 13 spot owned by Iowa. The 14 spot, Texas Tech from the Big 12, and another Big 12 team follows, the University of Texas. And rounding out the 16 reveal is Missouri, University of Missouri, in the 16 spot.
Seth, I know you like someone everywhere. What do you like in this?
Yeah, no, I like them all. But to me, the Missouri Tigers, not only are they a good team, but they really exemplify what's happening in college basketball this season. There are some usual suspects that we're used to seeing on this board who aren't there because they're young and inexperienced. But Missouri is a team. They're older and they have continuity in terms of what they've had in the past. Cuonzo Martin has done a great job developing his talent. They're old, they're tough, and they play great defense. That's why they are where they are.
Seth, you're spot on in terms of the maturity factor being such a significant component in teams that are excelling or surprising. And Missouri would be one. Texas would be another. When you talk about what they were projected to be coming into this season and what Shaka Smart's team has been able to do. Actually, about 3-4 weeks ago, they were playing as well as anybody in the country, hit a little bit of a speed bump, but they've got depth, they've got size, they've got maturity in the backcourt, and they've got really good athleticism, have improved defensively significantly.
Mitch, I know there are always ifs, ands, and buts, but in these top 16, did you see any areas that things might have changed along the way?
Well, you've got a couple of teams we considered, and Southern Cal was certainly a team that was on in a lot of conversations. Another team that was in the conversation a lot was Florida State, and there was a couple other Big Ten teams as well, as Seth and Clark referred to. You're going to see a lot of those teams in the conversation. But USC and Florida State certainly bumping their heads on that top 16.
All right, Mitch, thank you. Dan Gavitt will rejoin us to help wrap things up. But first, a taste of what we all missed out on last year, the opportunity to add to a never-ending list of memorable NCAA tournament moments.
From Indianapolis, Indiana, he'll call. Oh, can you believe he got that high? Duke has won its first national championship. And you can leave it to Cleve. No doubt tonight in Indianapolis.
Nice step
working in. And what a move. The Gators as good as it gets. At midcourt, launches the shot. Oh, it almost went in. And Duke is the king of the dance.
Still plenty of basketball to be played before Selection Sunday. We have a good one at the top of the hour. Auburn has a really good one in Sharif Cooper, the freshman phenom averaging just over 20 points a game. Cooper and the Tigers will face freshman standout Brandon Boston in Kentucky in an SEC clash as the young Wildcats continue to mature under the guidance of John Calipari. Auburn and Kentucky up next here on CBS. Before we send you out to the tip in Lexington, a look once again at the top 4 seeds as it stands right now. The number 1 overall seed is Gonzaga. Number 2 overall, the Baylor Bears. Number 3, the Wolverines from Michigan. And number 4, those Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, the top 4 in each of our 4 regions. Region 1 has Gonzaga, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Iowa. In Region 2, Baylor leading the way, and then there's Illinois, Tennessee, and Texas. The third region has Michigan, Houston, West Virginia, and Missouri. And Region 4, Ohio State, Villanova, Virginia, and Texas Tech. And before we wrap things up, guys, we have a few more questions. Clark.
Yeah, I'm going to start with Dan. There's a lot of chatter around conference tournaments. What impact will they have on the committee? Should they even be played? What's your response to that, Dan?
Committee has spent an awful lot of time, Clark, on that topic and have already provided flexibility for conferences to adjust their conference AQ policy as late as February 26. And they just yesterday had a statement that said basically the current policy is that that's a local decision by conferences and institutions and that it should stay there. But the committee encourages that if a tournament is being played, that all of those teams that have qualified for that tournament should participate to honor the game and the extraordinary extent that players and coaches have gone to play a safe and responsible season, and also to help with the bracketing and seeding and selection process for the tournament committee as well.
Mitch, as you well know, without fans in the arenas this season, home court advantage is not as big of an advantage, which is significant because that is baked into the metrics that you use, specifically the net. Are you guys going to account for the differentiation between this year and in the past for home court advantage?
Well, Seth, clearly in the past, road teams are losing at about a 67% clip normally, and as you get into conference season, those numbers drop a little bit, and that's sort of what it's trending like now. You're seeing that the home team winning a little less, and as you get into these conference matchups. So that is an important part of the conversation. It is baked into some of the metrics, but I think our principles still say the same. We're going to absolutely look at the full body of work. We're going to have an opportunity to talk about quality wins and opportunities that are available to them. And the metrics will be a piece of that. And then everybody wants to know about the eye test and where does that play into everything. The committee is watching a ton of basketball games, as they always do. And I'm very thankful for their unbelievable efforts in doing that. But so we'll try and work all our way through that. But make no mistake about it, walking into another arena, just because there's not a lot of fans in there doesn't mean it's not difficult to do that. You're going on the road, you're testing all your protocols, and to be able to go in there and get a win on a road, on a visiting court is really difficult.
Dan, are there going to be fans at these games?
Well, Seth, we're optimistic and hopeful. We've been communicating with local health officials in Indianapolis about that, and already are sure that we will have player guests that will be at all 67 games. And we're hopeful here in short order to announce limited capacity for fans as well.
Dan, Mitch, this has been a great dress rehearsal. We are looking forward to all of this getting underway, and I imagine the anticipation at the NCAA is twice as much, considering what we did a year ago.
Well, exciting on our end. I know it's 29 days till Selection Sunday and 51 days till Championship Monday, and on behalf of the committee, I just can't thank everybody on and off the court for all they've done to get us ready to return March Madness to the fans, and obviously we're looking forward to Indianapolis in a really, really exciting way.
Mitch Barnhart, Dan Gavitt, thank you guys very much for being here. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing them 4 weeks from tomorrow for our selection show, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Selection Sunday.